Did you know that you have rights? The Constitution says you do, and so do we. Better call Triple Click. Welcome to Triple Click, where we bring the games to you. Today we are talking about this summer's big news from Rockstar changing its ways to unionization all across the industry. Let's get to it, shall we? I'm Jason Schreier.
I'm Kirk Hamilton.
And I'm Maddy Myers. It's us.
Hello.
Hello.
It is us for another episode.
We're going to start every show with a long pause.
No weird pauses here. There are never weird pauses on Triple Click because I edit them all out.
No. We're supposed to all say hello at the same time. That's how we start the show. That's what we do.
That is every time.
I think one day we should start the show by being like, I'm Jason Schreier, I'm Maddy Myers, I'm Kirk Hamilton, and I'm Poochie, the talking dog. Like we need a surprise guest to just like shake things up a little bit.
Right, a totally crazy voice just comes in and surprises people.
And I'm Shigeru Miyamoto.
But honestly, Poochie should like be in the middle. Like we should put Poochie and or Shigeru in the middle of it. And then it's like, and I'm Kirk Hamilton like at the end, and everyone's like, wait, what's happening right now?
And we just don't mention it.
No.
It's like it didn't even happen.
Yeah, Miyamoto's just sitting in Jason's office. He's just here for the pod.
He's just here. Jason always brings some guests. It's very thoughtful of him for this
I
show.
do. Well, don't you guys remember last week when I had that
that's what I,
yeah,
of course. We were here for that.
This was a callback for people.
But it was not Tetsuya Takahashi or Shigeru Miyamoto. It was just the guy who lives here. It's
that's the separate
you wouldn't know
thing.
him. He's not famous.
Jason's roommate. You got to have some roommates in this housing market, you know?
Yeah, you do. You really do. Speaking of housing markets, help us all buy houses by becoming a Max Fund member today. The three of us, we make this show entirely supported by listeners. You might notice we don't have any ads. No companies are sponsoring us, despite Kirk's love for Roomba, which, by the way, did you see that they're getting bought by Amazon, the Roomba people?
I did.
That's
we really got to kill the Roomba
heartbreaking.
report for good.
Wow. R.I.P.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're using a Nido. We use a Nido robot vac now and not a Roomba.
Wow.
So even my personal Roomba sponsorship is over.
Anyway, if you want to help us support the show and make the show possible, you can become a Max Fund member. Join the Max Fund Network. Go to MaximumFund.org/join and sign up today for as little as $5 a month. You get access to a whole bunch of bonus content, including monthly bonus episodes from us. We just ran last week an episode about the MCU where we checked in on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this month we are recording a bonus episode that I am incredibly excited about.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about Better Call Saul, one of the best shows possibly ever made. And
full spoilers.
we are going to spill the beans. Full spoilers. The show ends, I believe, next week. And so we will be spoiling it a couple weeks later, like at the end of August. Our Beanscast is going to run, so it gives you all time to catch up, to rewatch the whole series, whatever you'd like. But I imagine this Beanscast is going to focus pretty like skew towards the end, but we'll be talking about the whole series.
Can you imagine the lucky person who decides right now to just watch all of Better Call Saul before our Beanscast?
God, I can't even imagine.
I mean, I decided that only a couple months ago, and it's been extremely fun. I feel like I started watching it at exactly the right time. So hopefully everybody else listening was also convinced by both of you talking about it on this very show.
Oh, man,
and they're
Maddy.
Finishing just in time, right along with me.
You're in
perfect.
for such a treat. Maddy just told us before we started recording that she is 4
Last
episodes
night,
behind.
I saw Dina and I watched the mid-season finale.
Yeah.
So I'm at the perfect stopping point.
Good
And
stuff.
then we'll continue watching it. So it's really not a stopping point at all because
No.
such is the age of television in 2022.
If you want to hear our unvarnished thoughts on Better Call Saul, go to MaximumFun.org/join and you will get that bonus episode later this month. All right, one more thing before we start with the show. We are doing, as we announced last week, we are doing a book club, a Triple Click book club, a triple read, a book called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. It is kind of a video game themed book. It's about game developers. We will all be reading it and discussing it on September 9th, and we would like you all to join us.
Yeah, you should read along.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. It's really, really good so far. It's a great book. So you're all in for a treat if you haven't read it yet.
Sorry, September 8th. I said 9th. September 8th. I said 9th. It's 8th. Thursday,
Yes.
September 8th, we will be doing a book club coming then. All right. today's episode is a summer news roundup. We don't often talk about like the daily, the weekly video game news here on this podcast of ours, here on this old Triple Click, but we do every once in a while like to check in on the news of du jour, the news du jour.
What's the news up to? I say to myself.
Du month. What's the French version of month? How do you say month in French? Du jour, du month. However you say it.
I'm blanking.
Don't you guys?
Nothing
Maddie,
like
don't you
the
speak
word
French?
month. I know.
So we figured we'd pick out a bunch of stories and just talk about them because there's some really interesting stories that have happened over the past few weeks since Fake E3 happened, which I think was the last time we talked about news. So let's get on with it, shall we? Let's talk about some news stories.
Let's.
Or Kirk is looking up the word month in French first.
Yeah, you can just tell Kirk is Googling some French right now. You can. I can tell from his face.
It's moi.
Yeah, moi?
Okay. The news du moi.
MOIS.
News du moi.
News
Doesn't
du
have
moi.
quite the same ring to it as news du jour.
No.
All right. First up in the headlines, Bungie is suing "quote unquote" fans. So Bungie, this is really interesting. Bungie, the makers of Destiny, recently purchased by Sony. So now the Sony-owned makers of Destiny, they are going out and like actively pursuing not only cheaters in Destiny, people who are like cheating in the game, but also people who are sending them threats and impersonating employees and doing all sorts of shitty gamer the capital G behavior. And so
Gotta watch out for that capital G.
a couple of years ago, there's this great Axios article that will by our former colleague Stephen Totillo that will link in the show notes, where he talked to new Bungie general counsel Don McGowan, who has gone on this crusade to like take down these aggressive players. And so really, I mean, like Bungie employees have apparently been harassed so badly and getting threats and stuff. And some of these details are out there, like actual transcripts and like quotes from the threats they've been getting. So Bungie, instead of just like sitting back and taking it, they're like, screw this. We're like going after these people. We're going to take these people to court. And it's really interesting. McGowan, their new general counsel, has this strategy. And he's like, this is a great quote from Axios. He says, as their lawyer, my team and I have a set of skills that make it possible for us to defend them as well the integrity of our players' experience.
Extremely Neeson-ish thing to say.
Straight out of Taken. So yeah, what do you guys think of this?
I think this is interesting. I mean, it's a shift. It's a big shift in approach, at least from what we've gotten used to over the last 10 or 15 years of this sort of consumer first. We love our fans. They can be passionate sometimes, but, you know, we love their passion and they're the lifeblood of this operation to suddenly, okay, too much passion, guys. We'll see you in court, which is a pretty significant change.
That's something you'd see on an E3 stage.
Yeah.
Too much passion. We'll see you in court.
Dial down the passion about 50%.
It's running a little white hot over there with the passion.
Come on.
It is hurting
Simmer
us.
it down.
Yeah.
We do this all for you, the fans, but not really.
Mm-hmm. Well, not those fans who are
only some
threatening
fans.
us and are threatening us
Right.
with bodily harm. I mean, some of these threats are really scary, like
personal
and intense and violent. So
yeah,
Right.
these are really just like, and
they're lawsuit worthy.
these are clearly like not well people. Yeah.
Right, and the lawsuits also center on, you know, cheating and showing people how to cheat and streaming cheating in the game and that kind of thing too.
Or like stealing items, selling items, making videos about how to do that. I mean, those are the kinds of things that make sense to crack down on.
Right, it's taking a sort of firmer hand in general, I guess, with how people use the thing that you made and do own, and not kind of, it's just like taking back a little bit of ownership, I guess, of the game from the fans, which is, you know, I mean, it's good to see in this instance because it seems like a lot of this behavior was beyond the pale, but also it does feel a little bit weird to cheer like a large corporation going after people who use its products in court. I mean, like, just as a broad thing, I certainly have mixed feelings about that, especially if it becomes a general trend outside of this specific instance.
Yeah, is there a slippery slope here where like suddenly they're going after fans for like more gray stuff? What if they start going after fans? What if Nintendo started going after fans for emulating their games? Like when Nintendo has gone after people who are like the architects of emulation software, but like, what if they just start going after fans? Like, is there a slippery slope here? And I don't think anyone would justify the behavior, the death threats, and like the nasty behavior from some of these fans. But it does raise an interesting question of like who you're really rooting for and what you're really rooting for there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, reading this. Polygon has an article just sort of rounding up just the harassment story, and DMG04, the community manager at Bungie working on Destiny. I remember, this is a sort of old school Destiny thing, but DMG was a poster on DTG, on the Destiny the Game subreddit, who was elevated to become a community manager. So I've been I've been aware of him for a very long time. It was kind of Deej was the community manager at Bungie for a long time, and then DMG got kind of elevated. And it was interesting watching a guy who had been a really active member of the community suddenly be at Bungie and like have his responsibilities change, his level of knowledge change. And then over time, I mean, that was a long time ago now, he's, become a whole fixture at that studio, and seeing him talk about the kinds of harassment they're getting, how scary this has been, how intense it's been. It's just a sort of an interesting wrinkle for me as a longtime Destiny player. And also, I was struck by the fact that he tried to really reiterate, like, this isn't a punishment. We're not trying to punish players. This is really about protecting our workers and our employees. And that seems to be how they're trying to emphasize this, what they're doing here. It's not like we want to punish the bad gamers, even though it's really easy to see it that way. They're really seeing this as a sort of labor work safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it should be noted that Bungie, I think, is pretty well regarded as like a good place to work. A lot of people have really positive things to say, especially recently, about working there. And you feel really helpless when you're the victim of these kinds of attacks. And there are different organizations have tried different methods of like helping protect. We've seen this in journalism, helping protect people who are like under attack. Some companies have gotten it better than others for sure, and this seems like a new level of that. But it's like it's really, you don't know what to do when you have this, just like whether you're being barraged on social media, like getting a barrage of threats on social media or nasty messages or whatever, or actually getting death threats like sent to your house. It can feel really helpless, and that's one of the worst parts.
Yeah, I think looking at this in terms of a sort of broader context, you can see this alongside some of the other stories that we're about to talk about, all of which represent a sort of stronger focus on workers because, in so many industries, workers have more power now than they did even a few years ago. And you can start to see that. I mean, I'm not saying all of these things are necessarily just for that reason, but you do see there's a kind of a broader trend here toward these companies taking more steps to protect their workers, which seems like a good thing to me, at least as a supporter of workers' rights in general.
Yeah, well, let's move on, shall we? So the next story, this is a story on Bloomberg.com.
Never heard of it.
It's about
reported by some guy
about Rockstar Games. And so turns out Rockstar Games has made a lot of changes over the past 4 years. As you guys will certainly remember, around the time that Red Dead 2 launched, there was a kind of firestorm of controversy that was set off by Dan Houser, one of the co-founders and heads of the company, talking about working 100-hour work weeks. Basically, he said that as kind of a throwaway line, and everybody kind of leaped on it. And then he made things much, much worse by saying, actually, it's just a few of us that are working those kinds of hours, because when he walked that back, that's what really pissed off his employees, who were like, no, actually, we're all working those kinds of hours. Anyway, long story short, it led to a widespread reckoning at the company, and the company kind of said, hey, we want to change our ways. And really, we've seen a lot of worker reckonings recently, and I think this one is the one that has A, been the quietest, and B, had the most effect so far. So far, I say, because there's no unions here, and the union-led organization might have bigger effects in the long run, but so far. And so what happened was I spoke to about a little more than 20-something people who either work there now or left very recently. So people who have seen these changes in action and got the sense that this is like going to be this is Rockstar trying to be a more progressive company in a lot of ways. They're like, sending out donation like money to everybody and bonuses to everybody when the pandemic started. Black Lives Matter, they're saying like we'll match Black Lives Matter donations. They're sending out care packages. They're like adding more mental health benefits and breaks and stuff. They added this policy at a bunch of their studios called Flex Time, where like Flexi Time, where you.
I was really surprised by that one in this article.
Yeah, that's a cool one where like basically it's how overtime should work, which is like you work an extra hour, you get to take an extra hour the next week or whatever. You work a weekend, you get to take 2 days off that following week. That's what they've implemented. Caveat here being with all these changes that like they're still a couple years off from the end of Grand Theft Auto 6, their next game, but people there are pretty hopeful and optimistic for the most part. Some people are frustrated with the changes, especially some old timer folks. Some people are frustrated with how slow progress has been on GTA 6. This is a game, the article also has some more insight on that game, which has been in development in some form or another since 2014, which is right after GTA 5 launched. But it's worth noting that like a bunch of those, I think the entire company essentially was pulled off to work on Red Dead 2. So it's not like GTA 6 has been in constant production since then. But yeah, some insight on that is that it has a female protagonist, which I can finally share with the world now that the story is out there. I wanted to share it with you guys last time we were talking about GTA, but resisted the urge. Has two playable heroes. One is male, one is female.
Heroes, you say, in a Grand Theft Auto game.
Protagonist.
Maybe anti-heroes.
Yeah.
I mean this in the sense of hero. It's like HIRO, like in Snow Crash.
They're both the hero
Sure,
protagonist, if you will. They're the Jimmy and Ken.
And I think exactly. I think they're trying to punch down less in this one. That's not to say it's not going to be like a big satire that is like throwing bombs and a bunch of stuff, but I think we'll see fewer jokes, if any, about trans people, about minority, like punching down on minorities, that sort of thing. The way you might see even like the throwaway jokes on like a truck. You might see like, what was that truck in GTA? It was like post-op or something, like as a trans joke for the trucks, like that sort of thing.
Which they took that stuff out, right?
Yes, they did.
In the re-release of the game.
Yes.
Which almost shows how they've already been changing internally.
Exactly. And I think, of course, naturally, there was all sorts of like backlash from conservative media to my article being like, GTA going woke, they're going to go broke. And if you think GTA is going woke, I think you're in for a rude awakening.
Or
like,
going
this game
broke.
Is going to be...
Or going broke
right.
for that matter. I don't think either of those things is really happening.
This game is going to be foul and like it's going to be a GTA game. I just think like you'll see less of the kind of punching down and more like questions about like what does it mean to be a GTA game, and I think after playing Red Dead 2, I have a lot of faith in those writers because I thought Red Dead 2 just did a phenomenal job of telling a story. So I think it'll be interesting. Anyway, what did you guys make of that story and all the changes at Rockstar?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one because I remember even at the time, people were talking in 2015. People were like, well, why doesn't GTA have a female protagonist yet? Because it was like right after Gamergate. That kind of conversation was happening a lot in 2015. People were really pushing back against a culture that had been a part of games since the 90s. And it just felt like that game came out at a weird time. And I remember the fact that it had multiple male protagonists was a really big part of the way that people talked about it. I'm not saying that's unfair, but it was definitely a big part of the conversation. And this feels like both a correction in the sense that would have disappointed me at the time, where it's like, oh, are they just doing this because they're trying to be trendy? But it doesn't sound like that's the situation from your article, Jason. It sounds instead like over the past 5 years or 7 years, however long since it's been since they really were thinking about the last GTA, they've changed as a company, and video games have changed a lot. And it's just cool to see a company doing that in a normal way as opposed to what we might call the Riot or the Activision Blizzard way, where there's a hell of a lot of tragic reporting about something. That's not to say there wasn't on Rockstar as well, but there's not like as much. It's been different. I don't know. It's hard to compare these massive structures to one another in a coherent way, but this feels more like internally people were making a lot of decisions that push the needle without being told by a government entity that they had to, or else they were going to have to pay damages for it, which is like a little different.
I think the Rockstar stuff got less attention for whatever reason. The big outcry was about crunch, but later it started coming out that there was a lot more. I ran a story on Kotaku the following year about one of their top guys, Geronimo Barrera, who was accused to sexually assault an employee named Colin, who spoke out by name in the article. Geronimo Barrera denied the allegations. And I wrote a lot about like the kind of bro culture that surrounded Rockstar, the excursions to strip clubs and like heavy drinking and all that sort of thing. That is like essentially what Activision was then gone after last year. And again, I've said this before on this show, but like the only difference between Activision and other companies is that Activision was sued by California.
Exactly.
Like, every company has had the exact same problems. But I think Rockstar, just for whatever reason, I don't know why. Maybe it was a failure of my reporting. Maybe it was just like for whatever reason. Sometimes these things don't gain traction. Maybe it did not get the same level of attention or level of reporting from other outlets. There were no other outlet has like done that sort of reporting on Rockstar. So the way that a lot of outlets did on Activision, for example. So I don't know.
And Ubisoft.
Also, journalism
and so
has changed.
Yeah, journalism has changed.
There's a lot more in-depth games reporting and people who are pursuing journalism than there was even a few years ago. So that's been a big difference. But yeah, I mean, Rockstar had those same issues, and that's a big part. One thing I didn't mention earlier is that one of their big parts of their whole change has been getting rid of a lot of the bad apples, quote unquote. And that to a lot of people.
Yeah, which your article describes, which is hard to do because some of that is culture too. Like even if you get rid of a few people, and even if they're at the top and they're really influencing culture, it's hard to actually make really big changes. Like the flex time you're describing would be such a huge cultural difference for people to get used to compared to 100-hour weeks. It's hard to even fathom how big of a difference that must be for people. And then you put on top of that just something like, and GTA isn't going to punch down. It's like, whoa, those are huge changes. Like it's just a couple sentences. But if you think about that in practice, how wildly different that would be in terms of the project you're working on, how you feel when you're working on it, it would be totally different in every way.
All right, moving on. Another Bloomberg story. Knights of the Old Republic remake is in trouble. This is, so you guys might remember last year, the Knights of the Old Republic remake was announced with just a logo, which itself is probably a bad sign. Anytime anything is announced with just a logo, it means we don't have anything. And that is generally bad.
Yeah. So you're saying God of War Ragnarok is going to be bad because it also announced with just a logo. Interesting, Jason. Go on.
Interesting. Well, when they announced, they said 2021, and we all know how that turned out, right?
I know, I'm just teasing you. There are many games that announce with just a logo. It's common, tragically.
Yeah, but it's always bad. It always means they're going to be delayed or that something is going awry behind the scenes. If a game is not so just a logo.
It's certainly a very strong sign that the game is going to be delayed. Yes, I agree.
Yes. Yeah, God of War. That announcement was 2021, and it couldn't. They're barely making 2022. So.
I'm not trying to distract you. Back to Knights of the Old Republic.
Anyway, so this game is in development at Aspyr, which is a studio that probably not a lot of people have heard of. It's in Austin, Texas, and it was previously known for porting games, for bringing games from one platform to another, mostly to like iOS and Mac OS. And so they never really had a big budget production quite like this, which is likely one of the biggest factors behind the reason that it's in trouble. So, the original idea for this, I remember when I was first hearing about this a couple of years ago, like late 2019, like 2020, around there. First of all, I was like, whoa, like someone outside of EA is making a Star Wars game? That's crazy. Second, I was like, so what is this? Is it supposed to be like a remaster or a remake? And the answer I kept hearing from people was like, we're not sure. And I was like, ruh-roh. And so it turns out this game might have suffered from scope creep. It might have suffered from the kind of classic game development problems. Anyway, so what happened in July was they had a vertical slice planned, a demo planned, and after they delivered it, the company kind of abruptly fired their art director and design director, and then they told the whole studio, hey, this project is on pause while we figure out what's next. And they said, we're going to look for other contracts and stuff. And it's kind of a disaster over there. People are very, very clamped down and hesitant to talk because they're terrified of Disney, fun fact. But yeah, I was able to get enough of the story to be able to report it. And yeah, that game, if it ever happens, it will likely be finished by somebody else. There are rumors that Saber, which is part of the same parent company as Aspyr is owned by like the Embracer Group, which also owns Saber Interactive. Saber Interactive is this huge company that has like all these different branches all across the world, including in Russia, although they might have renamed or pulled out of Russia or something, I don't know. But so the rumor is that they might take over, but not clear. I would say don't get your hopes up for seeing this game is my advice. Yeah, unfortunate situation.
Yeah. Pause sounds like a breakup. It's like let's put our relationship on hold. We're pausing this. It doesn't bode well, especially for a video game that has an entire demo made for it.
There's definitely like different levels of trouble that games can be in development, and you kind of have to read the tea leaves to tell. And this one seems pretty serious, mostly because they just announced it. I mean, I didn't even have long enough to really think about or internalize the fact that there was going to be a Knights of the Old Republic remake, and then here, nope, never mind, it's on pause and it's in trouble. So it's it's a little bit of an easy come, easy go situation, but yeah, I mean, it's a bummer. It's a bummer for everyone working on it, who I'm sure had put in a lot of work and now doesn't, faces an uncertain future. And I would play a Knights of the Old Republic remake. I like Knights of the Old Republic, so hopefully someone makes one someday.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Really, it's so depressing. It's like I saw a tweet circulating the other day when the whole Batgirl thing happened, when WB announced that even though Batgirl is completely finished, they're not going to release it. And someone was like, yeah, this is what happens every day in the video game industry.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, I can't even imagine how painful it must be. And I'm so lucky to have never gone through this, to spend years of your life on something potentially, or months at the very least. And then it just fizzles into nothing, and it's like, will never be seen by anyone. You can't put it on your reel. You can't put the concept art on your website, or else it'll get taken by Reddit and like plastered everywhere, and you'll get in trouble. It's just kind of so sad. And God, yet another reason. I have a giant a notepad full of reasons why I would never go into game development. This is just one of many.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, fair.
So speaking of things that are a mess, Ubisoft, you guys might have heard, Ubisoft is a mess. Man, Ubisoft has been really struggling recently. I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention, but their year this year is really, really bleak.
I've just been waking up every day going, I can't wait to play Skull and Bones. And you're telling me that that's the wrong mindset to have? Because I've been saying that for literally years, every single day.
I think that's the only time those words have been uttered in combination. I can't wait.
Honestly, like, jokes aside, if they had somehow made it happen this year, I feel like it would have been their time, because pirates are so back in. Like, Our Flag Means Death is so popular right now.
It is
Sea
happening
of Thieves,
this year.
etc.
Skull and Bones is.
I'll believe it when I see it.
No, it definitely is, because they have all sorts of like, that game is complicated. It should have been canceled years ago, but it can't be, because Ubisoft has this contract with the Singapore government, with the Malaysian government, and so they cannot actually they can't actually cancel it. Or
they have to
so
put
they have
something
to release
out.
it in a certain amount of time.
Who knows what it'll be?
They got all sorts of money from the government to do it. Yeah, that game is a disaster. But also, there was supposed to be an Avatar game this year that was delayed. Supposed to be an Assassin's Creed game this fiscal year. It was supposed to come out in February. That was delayed to like May or June or something like that. So yeah, just like one miss after another for Ubisoft, a company that was once just like on top of the world with like its new Far Cry's and Assassin's Creeds every year.
Yeah, they've sort of lost a step somehow or other, because in addition to the things you mentioned, I mean, Far Cry 6 is widely seen as a big disappointment by fans of Far Cry. I played some of it and it was pretty boring. Like, it was pretty repetitive. It kind of just felt like another Far Cry game. Giancarlo Esposito was not enough to save that game. And so people aren't happy about that.
If you played as him, maybe it'd be enough.
Yeah, that'd be
maybe.
cool.
I don't know though. If you were playing that same boring Far Cry stuff. And And there's also Ghost Recon, which has been a total mess. I haven't played one of those games in a long time, but I keep seeing articles and headlines about various things that are announced and then canceled.
Yeah.
NFTs, they put in NFTs.
They've got a Battle Royale. They had the NFT thing that is huge. So that's it just seems like they're constantly stepping in it, constantly feeling, there's, not to mention Beyond Good and Evil 2,
right?
Which has a lot of turnover. That just seems to be in development
forever.
Yep. Was announced forever ago, is with a CGI trailer that they've never really showed the game. It just seems like that's never coming out, even though people were excited. So I do wind up thinking, what does Ubisoft have? And this is as someone who is a longtime fan of a lot of Ubisoft games. And I like, Watch Dogs 2, and I like Far Cry 2, and I like a lot of Assassin's Creed games, and I like Prince of Persia. I like so many things that they have that they can draw from. I like the first Beyond Good and Evil. And yet they keep not coming up with new stuff, and it feels like it's been years at this point. I mean, Assassin's Creed Valhalla notwithstanding, everything else has kind of been a disaster. So I don't know what's going on over there. It's not good.
Yeah. I think Assassin's Creed Rift is kind of a good microcosm of Ubisoft as a whole and their problems. So here's what happened with that game. So Yves Guillemot, on a recent Ubisoft earnings call, essentially blamed working from home for all their problems and their delays. Was like, we're still getting used to working from home, blah, blah, blah. Production challenges from working from home.
I mean, it could be some truth to that, you should say. It could be a hard thing to adjust to.
Okay, so here's what happened with Assassin's Creed Rift. So, this is supposed to be, there's supposed to be this thing, this Basim thing, Basim from Assassin's Creed Valhalla is supposed to get a DLC, right? Ubisoft looks ahead at their calendar. They say, hey, we have a gap in this fiscal year. Let's delay this Basim DLC and turn it into a full game. But also, instead of making it Valhalla style, let's turn it back into an old school Assassin's Creed game where you're sneaking around and doing whatever. I don't know the specifics, but sneaking around. I assume
honestly, this all sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
That general description sounds pretty cool. I'm into that.
Except you only get X number of months to do it, and you have to do it in the same engine, with all this RPG stuff.
That's less cool. Sounds less cool.
That's cool.
And you have to hit this fiscal year, essentially make a new game in half the time it would take to make a new game. And then when it turns out that you need a delay because you can't actually make it in all that time, we're going to blame working from home on those problems. We're going to say it's because you're working from home.
Right, a convenient scapegoat. Oof. It's good they delayed it at least, and that actually does sound promising. I mean, the idea of taking Assassin's Creed back to just being in a city and sneaking around and doing assassinations is cool with me because I don't need it to become even more of an open world thing. So that sounds fine, all of those specifics notwithstanding.
Yeah, and it's made by Ubisoft Bordeaux. One of their French offices. At least they're leading it, I'm sure. As with all Ubisoft things, it's being made scattershot all across the world. But yeah, no, it's interesting times. I'm looking forward to that game too, and I think that they're going to announce it in September. It's still not announced, believe it or not. They're going to announce it in September, and maybe even hint at Assassin's Creed Infinity and the whole future of Assassin's Creed. So that'll be fun to hear about and talk about when that actually happens.
I'd much rather the small scale Assassin's Creed game that is purposefully scoped as opposed to Assassin's Creed Infinity, whatever the heck that's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, Infinity, I don't think Infinity is just the platform. It's the skeleton for these other. So the idea is that instead of just releasing a new game every year, you have this one thing that it gets modules or biomes attached to it, and you log in through the platform. And I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but the first year they're hey, now you get to go to Japan through Assassin's Creed Infinity, and then the next year they're oh, now you get to go to this other place, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, also it'd just be nice to hear something not Assassin's Creed that is exciting from Ubisoft because it's been a long time.
There is a new Mario and Rabbids game coming out this fall. I'm excited.
Yeah,
for
but
that.
That's also Nintendo, so that almost doesn't count.
No, it's made by Ubisoft. I mean, Nintendo supervises.
No, I know, but it's a Nintendo property.
It's not a new IP.
Sure.
Kirk wants a new IP,
or a new Watch Dogs game that sounds really cool, or just something that Ubisoft has that is a Ubisofty thing that's exciting.
What's tragic about about Ubisoft is that they always have like all these new incubation projects in the works, and so many of them get canceled. Someone was just telling me the other day about like this promising new project in Toronto that was like this original game, and bam, it was canceled. So like this sort of thing happens all the time, unfortunately. I think Ubisoft's problem, and this is actually a really widespread problem that not enough people are talking about, is a severe lack of senior staff, because they're having so much trouble hiring. Pretty much every game company is having so much trouble hiring. And in fact, we can get to this a little bit later, but I just saw Firaxis just delayed their Marvel XCOM game, Midnight Suns. And the first thing I did when I saw that was like, I looked at their website, and of course their website under careers is like lead role, senior role. Like all their hiring is lead and senior roles. And so many, it seems like all these companies just have so many vacancies, because all that burnout that people did to video game developers is finally coming to bite these companies in the ass. That combined with like the big great resignation that is leading everyone to switch jobs, and you just have like every single company is just like severely lacking staff. So I think that's a huge problem for Ubisoft.
It does.
That makes sense.
I skipped over this one, actually. A wave of unionization. Lots of unionizing happening. Raven unionized. They were the first big North American company to do it. They're QA testers. And then another group of Activision QA testers, this time at the company formerly known as Vicarious Visions in Albany, now known as like Blizzard New York or whatever. They are also unionizing. So it's happening, guys. We're seeing unionizing. I was talking to someone about this. Who was struggling to like get people organizing in their game studio, and I was like, what really needs to happen, like we're seeing this starting point, the first domino is really going to be the first time a union gets a contract and it is like, here is what we won, like we won a 10% pay increase for everybody across the board, and just like all the like once the fruits of that really are shown, then I think the dominoes will start falling and you'll start seeing this everywhere. But I think we need to reach that point first.
Yeah, this feels like just the other side of the same pressure that you're describing when you talk about all these personnel issues and everybody burning out and leaving. I mean, this is just the flip side of that, is workers have more power now and are exercising it, and it all just feels of a piece of this of all these broader trends.
It's pretty exciting, though. I mean, there's also just the fact that unionization has been taking over other industries too, which is really rad. Like, it's pretty cool to see Starbucks workers unionizing, for example. Like, people who even a few years ago I would have been like, well, I can't even imagine a union existing for these workers. And then now we have unions for some of them, and then other people that are in those same positions are like, well, such and such studio has a union for their QA people, and QA people have been mistreated for so long that it's really gratifying to see QA people in particular pushing for unionization, because it's just been horrifying to cover games for so long and know that the people who are fixing last minute problems with games that are so visible and that get complained about so much are also some of the lowest paid and unprotected people at the company. It's wild. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it makes a sort of sense that the people who are treated the worst would be the ones to have the biggest incentive to unionize, though given that we unionized at our workplace when we were actually in a pretty good place, there is also something to be said for unionizing when things are good. So hopefully we'll see some of that as well in game development.
Although that's tougher. It's a tougher sell.
I think the Vodio Games Union is a good example of that. It was like the first North American video game union, and Vodio Games is like a really small company. I think it's like a dozen people, and they were the first North American one. And then that was around the time that the Activision Blizzard QA folks were also getting things together to unionize as well. But like some of the early examples that we've seen have been more the Gawker Media style of, we just like working here and we want it to stay that way. Right. And I would say that the QA workers at the bigger studios are probably more inspired by stuff like the Starbucks union, where it's like, okay, this small group of people at one store were able to get together and do this. Who's to say that one group of QA workers at one town, maybe not every town, but one town can do this? And that's inspiring. It's like the kind of thing I think about when I'm feeling very doom and gloom about the world. I'm like, well, there's a lot of unions, though. That's pretty cool, huh?
Did you read that long New York Times feature about the Amazon workers that unionized? That was a real feel good story.
Damn, that was a good one.
Yeah, we'll link that in show notes. If anyone, I'm sure people know that story like broadly, but if you haven't read that article, it's a good read.
Sometimes you just need to pick me up, and you're like, some people were very stubborn and they just kept fighting for what they deserved, and hopefully QA workers everywhere are reading those stories too and being like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just excited for us. The three of us we all know the benefits of unionization firsthand since we were in a union and it saved our ass when we got sold to Univision. But like I'm excited for people to actually see the benefits for like one of these unions to actually like deliver on a contract that is just like, wow, this is like awesome and like makes our lives so much better.
It is a good feeling. I remember we're not changing your benefits this year. You're going to have the same health insurance because it's in your union contract. And I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. I don't have to deal with that now. Thanks, union. And it was just sort of this first tangible thing where the union just kind of came through. It was pretty nice.
It was incredibly nice. I'm going to combine these last two for one quick last item. So video game sales are down. I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention to this, but I've been paying just because Bloomberg pays attention to this sort of thing.
And Bloomberg's
sales
paying
are really
you.
down across the board. They are paying. I believe this last quarter, it was like 13% down over the previous quarter, something crazy like that. There are a lot of factors behind this, and all the game companies are doing earnings calls, and most of them are reporting losses. A lot of factors. One is that there's inflation, obviously, economic downturn. Another is that the pandemic is
we're not allowed to call it a recession. Legally, we can't call it that.
Legally, we cannot say recession. We cannot say the R word.
Absolutely not.
The pandemic is, people are just getting over the pandemic, and so they're less time spending inside playing video games. Pandemic isn't over, but people are acting like it's over, so that's the net effect. And then most importantly, there's a lack of big hits this year. After like a strong March or so, it feels like things have really died down, and that is in part because of the other big item here, which is that everything is delayed. A short and incomplete list of games that were supposed to be out this fall but are not: Starfield, Suicide Squad, Breath of the Wild 2, Forspoken, Midnight Suns, and Redfall, among many others, including ones that were delayed kind of internally and nobody knew about. So yeah, man, it's all kind of speaking of doom and gloom, the video game industry is in an interesting spot right now.
Yeah. People just don't like games anymore. After Elden Ring, it was like,
this is it.
This is the peak.
Like, well,
we can't do any better than
not
this.
Elden Ring.
And we're just going to pack it in.
There's a kind of a temporal disorientation that happens here because we're now kind of really feeling the effects of the pandemic, where when the pandemic first hit, there were kind of all these games that came out because a lot of stuff was almost finished. And now, because games just take so long to make that you have to kind of adjust your clock for your expectations by years, which is really hard for people to do. Like you can't, it's just very hard to have something happen right now that is because of something that happened 3 or 4 years ago and then understand that in context. So this is just, it just feels like, oh, okay, now it feels like a pandemic is hitting the video game industry, even though the pandemic, hit 2 years ago.
Yeah, although it felt like that last year because there were a bunch of delays last year too. And it's like, oh, pandemic's delaying everything.
Right, but there was that sort of, I guess we were looking forward to February, but there was that sense of, well, but February is going to come and all these games are going to come out. And it did, and they did.
Yeah.
Remember the headlines were like 2022 is going to be the best year ever for gaming. And then like we got Elden Ring and that was it. And now this fall it's like God of War, Ragnarok, and not much else.
Saints Row.
Yeah, and even God of War, it really feels like a miracle that's coming out.
Especially because that logo reveal, that was...
they really
stepped in it with that.
Set us up for disappointment with that
one. They upgraded after the logo reveal. But I think it's all, everything we've discussed, like you said before, is Kirk, is tied together. It's like everything is delayed because of, in large part, all these labor issues. I really think that like if you're looking at a game and you're wondering why it's delayed, chances are very high that it's because that team does not have enough senior staff right now. And it's not like a sexy answer, and it's not even a tangible answer, because like even if you're on a team, you might not realize that like, oh man, if we had one other person here, this would be avoidable, but like the inability to retain staff and B, inability to recruit staff, I think are really just adding up and causing problems all across the board.
Or maybe an ability to train staff up to become leaders. I mean, that's also something that I'm sure people are facing post-pandemic if they're used to in-person networking as the main way that people do things in the games industry, and now that isn't the case anymore. That is no longer available, really. I mean, we didn't have E3 this year. The list goes on. It's like there's so many things about this year that have been weird and different and a sign of change. But mostly it's the unions thing. I'm just going to stay on that because I gotta keep my head above water.
It's a nice break point in all of this.
I mean, if you're going to take the optimistic approach, you could say that like if unions were in place and if more people felt like they didn't, if unions were in place, then fewer people would burn out and leave, and so you'd have more senior staff floating around the video game industry in the first place.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that thing that you're talking about, Maddy, where senior staff leave and people don't get trained up to replace them. I mean, we've been talking about that since I don't even know when. The idea of brain drain in the games industry because people burn out, and that burnout has this long-term cost.
Or they leave for a tech industry job that pays way more and has better treatment of its employees than the games industry does. Like they're just like, I'll take a software QA job because they're not going to tell me that they're exploiting my passion and I should be so lucky to be here, you know?
Right. And then as a result, you don't get the new people to take over.
The flip side of remote work making it hard to train people is that remote work also makes it easier to retain people because, like,
that's true. And diversify.
Yeah, I wrote about this in Press Reset. If you're in Boston and you are at Irrational Games and you get laid off, you can either move across the country for a new job or like leave the video game industry and go into banking. And so
or work at Harmonix and get laid off immediately after that.
Right.
Yeah.
And now that remote is an option, it just changes everything for people. So
it does. I think this is just growing pains. This is still me being optimistic, but it feels like growing pains of unionizing and remote work being more of a thing, which to me is a good thing. Like companies getting used to remote work could really change everything in a great way for how games are made and how they work and how training works and how people communicate. I've been working from home for ages and I love it. So clearly I'm biased, but it has some huge perks. So
I think you're spot on. I think we're at an inflection point for the industry.
Everything about the industry, everything we've talked about just feels like an industry that's in the middle of flux.
Yeah. Which can be good and can be bad. And we'll have to wait and see what the net effects are. But here's rooting for good outcomes, I suppose.
Yeah. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we take a break from all this news and we'll be back shortly for one more thing.
Hey, it's John Moe, host of Depresh Mode, a podcast about people's mental health journeys. Guess who we got? Guess who? It's Jamie Lee Curtis.
I look at life now as the game of Guess Who, which is simply the process of elimination. I know what I don't like. That's how I found out who I am.
Jamie Lee Curtis on addiction, show business, and fooling people. All on Depresh Mode from Maximum Fun, wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, Manolo, we have a show to promote. It's called After Game Show.
It's a family-friendly podcast where listeners submit games and we play them with callers from around the world.
Oh, sounds good. New episodes happen every other Wednesday on MaximumFun.org.
It's a fast and loose oasis of absurd innocence and naivete.
Are you writing a poem?
No, and just saying things from my memory. And it's a nice break from reality. Are we allowed to say that?
I don't know. It sounds bad.
It comes with a 100% happiness guarantee.
It does not. Come for the games and stay for the chaos.
And we are back. Kirk, Maddy, it is time for one more thing.
Is that the Resident Evil announcer voice that you're trying to do?
It's my new.
Pretty good.
It's my new. I don't know. Game show where people like fight each other to the death. One more thing. Maddy, why don't you kick us off with a recent release?
The show. I've been playing the PC remaster of the 2018 video game Marvel's Spider-Man by Insomniac Games. This game's really freaking weird to play in 2022. I don't know if you two have revisited it recently, but boy. So even in 2018, people were like, is it a little weird that Peter Parker is unlocking surveillance towers that were built by a massive corporation and are all being used by the NYPD to listen in on every single cell phone conversation that every single person in New York City has, and they're using that to stop crime. Oh, and also the towers are infallible. They never make a single mistake. People are either criminals or civilians. It's a total binary, and all you have to do is find the criminals and stop them and save the civilians. Did people think that was weird in 2018? Yes, of course they thought it was weird. But 4 years later, playing it is so disarming. Like, actively I have to turn my brain off in order to enjoy the game. I have to be like, I need to ignore what I'm doing in the game because I can't get on board with anything that I'm doing.
Interesting.
Because even just like listening into people's conversations and being like, oh, these two guys are talking about a bank they're about to rob. Like, I don't know, I feel like the precogs in Minority Report or something. I'm like, they haven't even robbed the bank yet, and I'm already swinging down there to murder these guys. Like, damn, it's weird as hell. It's kind of, it's a game that I'm sure was made many years before 2018. And this is kind of the problem we're talking about with GTA, where it's like, by the time it came out in 2018, public perception of the police and how they operate in American society had shifted a lot. I mean, the way police were operating hadn't really changed that much, but public perception of them and of that behavior had shifted, and people had different demands, different expectations even then, and they have very different demands in 2022 as well.
Yeah, exponentially changed after 2020, I would say.
And that's just an ongoing conversation. Yeah. But I would say the Ferguson situation in 2014, I mean, that's the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement, I believe. I mean, people knew, even in 2018, that things were bad. So it's not like, oh, this came out of nowhere. But it is interesting to play it now. But it's also kind of bittersweet because I'm like, there are parts of this game that have a lot of heart. There are moments that I really love. There's like this scene where Peter Parker and Mary Jane have a whole text conversation, and I loved it so much. Like, the blocking of that scene is incredible.
I think I wrote a whole Kotaku article about just that scene.
About that. I'm sure you did. It's like Kirk Hamilton catnip, where it's like, as Peter reads the text, he's like swinging through the streets of Manhattan, and he like gets one text from her, and he looks at it and he's like, yes, and then he's swinging, and then he like hears the beep again and stops and is like, oh, now she's mad at me again. It's like his body language is so great in that scene, and it makes up for the fact that everybody's constantly calling me on the freaking phone in this game, and I want people to just stop freaking calling me so that I can like navigate the city in peace, but I'm constantly getting phone calls.
Credit to Yuri Lowenthal, who plays Spider-Man and is awesome.
Yes, he's really good. So there are some things in the game that I'm really enjoying, but you just can't get around the fact that you are upholding a police state and that it's kind of creepy. Like, remember at the end of The Dark Knight when Batman was like, maybe it's a little weird to record everybody's cell phone conversations, even though it's going to help me find the Joker? Peter Parker never thinks that. I don't know why not.
Well, and yeah, Batman destroys it afterwards, to be fair.
Yeah, wild stuff.
So this is something we're going to talk about, I think, in an upcoming episode, because I've been playing this game as well. I do think it's appropriate that you mentioned Batman, because I think a lot of these are Batman mechanics from the Arkham games that are a little bit awkwardly carried over to Spider-Man, because some of the disconnect here is just that Spider-Man, like, he's not really the police guy. Like I know that he's helped the police.
Yeah,
but
he's just a guy. Like, that's kind of his backstory, is that he's just a guy. Like, he's poor, he's a nobody. Yeah.
It feels a little more like the Batman thing, where he is, like, Batman's a little bit more fash than Spider-Man in general.
And he's also got the ego to match it, you know? Like, he not only does the things, he believes he's in the right for doing them. Whereas with Peter, you're like, well, Peter probably wouldn't be on board for this, right? Like, personality.
Right. Spider-Man is your neighborhood Spider-Man. He's supposed to just be like helping people out at a more ground level and a more civilian level. But there's the whole question of, like, do video games lend themselves more to one style of hero than another style of hero? And this is a teaser for a conversation that we will get more in depth on in an upcoming episode.
I have plenty more to say, but that's my preview.
Kirk, what's your one more thing?
I watched a movie that's really good. It's called Prey. It's on Hulu. It's the latest Predator movie. It is really great, and I liked it a lot. I'm sure everyone listening to this probably knows about this.
How does it compare to Prey from 2017?
Yeah, that's what I thought this was going to be because I forgot about this movie. I was like, oh, the video game Prey. Okay.
It's funny that the movie has the same name as the game, which I also really like. It's similar in some ways. I mean, there's a lot of hunting and hiding, and there's an extraterrestrial threat that is sort of overpowering and requires ingenuity on the part of the hero. So Prey, the video game, and Prey, the movie, have some things in common, but this is a Predator movie, and it's just a great movie. I mean, it's just an ass-kicking action movie it's back to basics in a lot of ways for Predator, in that it is just the story of an alien who shows up and starts killing people, and then the people have to get clever to defeat the alien. But the particulars make it really cool, and it's also just a beautiful looking, really well shot, just pleasurable movie to watch. So the hook of this movie is that it's taking place in the 1700s. It focuses on the Comanche Nation, and so it's a story of a bunch of Native Americans who suddenly are faced with a predator who lands on Earth to hunt some people, because that's what predators do. Everyone knows the premise of the Predator movies, but yeah, that's the story. It's like the predator always shows up, and it's this giant, totally unstoppable killing machine who is their whole culture. The predators have a whole culture where it's all about finding apex predators, so that it's like a rite of passage. You get sent to this planet, and then you have to hunt. And so first they kill animals, and then they discover humans, and clearly humans are the top of the food chain, and then the humans and the predators fight. And that's the premise for every movie. It's a very neat way to set up an action movie. And I've liked pretty much every Predator movie, like different amounts. I won't do my whole Predator ranking right now, but I like this one as much as the original. I mean, this might be my favorite Predator movie. I guess I just saw it, so I have recency bias, but it's just a really, really cool story. Obviously, it's really neat to see a story that centers Indigenous people, has a whole cast of Indigenous actors, really takes that very seriously. There's even a version you can watch with a Comanche dub. So it's like the whole thing is, all of the Native American characters are speaking Comanche. In the version that I watched, they're speaking English, and it's just, there are characters who are French, like they're sort of French colonists who turn up at one point, and they're just speaking French with no subtitles. And you kind of understand that the Native American characters are speaking their own language, even though it's English and we understand them. And so that's it's a cool device, and it works. But you can watch this with Comanche dub, which is really neat. But I don't know, it's just a great movie. Amber Midthunder, the star of this film, she's a sort of young woman who wants to be a hunter and clearly has a lot of potential, but that potential keeps being frustrated in various ways. And she sets out to fight the predator. And it just winds up being this great underdog kind of cat and mouse story. It really focuses on hunting and survival. There's a lot of logistics and like the practicalities of trying to track something. You see a lot of animals hunting other animals. It's a very clear theme. It's directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who made 10 Cloverfield Lane. Bing! Kirk here, and I have to mention this because I somehow didn't mention it when I was talking about it, but this movie also has one of the greatest dog performances ever. I gather the dog was not actually trained to be in movies and was sort of a pain on the set, but oh man, this is like the best movie dog ever, and I just had to mention it because I love dogs so much. I know a lot of listeners do too. If you want to see an amazing dog in a movie, watch this movie. Okay, back to the show. Bing! Anyways, that's a bunch of facts about the movie. I just thought it was awesome. It was way better, actually, than I was expecting, and I was expecting it to be pretty good. So I highly recommend it. I really think people should check it out if any of that sounds good. It's called Prey. It's on Hulu. It's a rad movie.
I'm going to watch it.
It's good.
Cool. My one more thing is a game called The Quarry. I've talked about this before when it first came out because I played it a little bit, but I have spent the past few nights playing on my TV with my wife, which is a much better way to play, and I've also played a lot more of it and can now kind of wholeheartedly say this game rules. So The Quarry, this is made by Supermassive Games. It is a spiritual successor to Until Dawn, which came out a few years ago and was kind of this schlocky horror gore movie slash thing, interactive movie slash thing, where you as a player like can leap between all these different characters who are these kind of like archetypes of teenagers in the woods being chased by some sort of possibly supernatural villain. So the Quarry is very similar. You play one of 8 or 9 camp counselors at this camp. It's the last night of summer camp, so all the kids are gone, and you wind up there for an extra night for one reason or another. And turns out there are monsters all over the camp, among other problems. There are also these 2 guys who are hunting you for some reason. And it's got a great cast. Ethan Duplay is in it. David Arquette is in it as the head counselor, as the head of the owner of the camp. A few other recognizable faces, people you will recognize. Brenda Song is in it. Sam Raimi's brother, Ted Raimi, is in it as this like corrupt cop. Speaking of fucked up cops. But anyway, so it's got this great mode called Couch Co-op where you and whoever you're sitting with can each pick a character, and then the game will prompt you before it switches to a character and say, player 1, your turn, player 2, your turn. And that's how my wife and I have been playing, which is so much fun. So we've been switching off. We each we divided all the characters in half. So I took 4 and she took 4. And so we're just passing the controller back and forth. And so we each make the decisions as we go, which is just like incredibly fun. And it's so schlocky and stupid, and like the characters make such bad decisions constantly that you're just yelling at them the whole time, being like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this?
But you're the one making the decision. How can you yell at the characters? You should yell at yourself.
Well, they make decisions outside of what
you
you're
don't
doing.
Get to pick, and those are the stupid ones.
There's some things you don't get to pick. Yes, 100%. And there's some things that like don't make sense or like are clearly weirdly stitched together because there's so many different permutations. But still, it's so much fun. I've been having such a blast, and it's so much fun to play with someone else because it's like watching this interactive movie where you both get to be in control and see how things unfold. And I'm very excited to see if we can make it all night without losing any of our counselors. So we shall see. But I did just get to this part. I think I'm probably halfway through the game because we just got to this part where like a certain character is explaining to us a lot of what's been going on, and it's been very interesting to hear that. And I won't spoil anymore, but there's some cool stuff in this game, and I'm really enjoying it. Go check it out. This game has been really like under the radar this summer, but because it came out in June, I don't think I've seen many people talking about it. But the Quarry, it rules. People should play it.
Nice.
I want to check it out. I have it downloaded. But that's as far as I got.
I think you will both enjoy plugging it to your... This is not a good Steam Deck game. This is a good plug it to the big screen, play it with your significant other, play it with some friends. It's that kind of game.
Have the horror movie experience as it deserves.
Exactly.
Right
exactly.
On.
The only downside is you can't like binge it in a night. So it's kind of like it unfolds in different chapters. I think they're like 10 or 12 chapters. So if you think of them as each as an episode of Netflix, then that's a good way of doing it. So like spend a weekend, play through it all in a weekend or week. The Quarry by Supermassive Games. All right, that is it for this week's episode. Kirk,
it is.
Maddy, see you both next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
Bye.
Triple Click is produced by Jason Schreier, Maddy Myers, and me, Kirk Hamilton. I edit and mix the show and also wrote our theme music. Our show art is by Tom DJ. Some of the games and products we talked about on this episode may have been sent to us for free for review consideration. You can find a link to our ethics policy in the show notes. Triple Click is a proud member of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network, and if you like our show, we hope you'll consider supporting us by becoming a member at MaximumFun.org/join. Find us on Twitter at TripleClickPod, send email to tripleclick@MaximumFun.org, and find a link to our Discord in the show notes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.